Have you ever wondered how religious broadcasts started? What are some of the challenges and rewards that come from such endeavors? How can religious programs bring people together for the greater good? My name is Laura Wallen, and these are questions that will be answered in this presentation, focusing specifically on one Christian missionary radio station. I will summarize the incredible story about the Far East Broadcasting Company, written by Gleason Ledyard. To give you a quick overview, this book tells the story of three men who founded Far East Broadcasting Company with an audacious goal to preach the gospel in many parts of the world. It talks about how Filipino and Americans worked side by side to share the Christian message and eventually reach China, who, despite being bound custody by communism, some hear the gospel nightly, and the rest is history. Overall, this story is a testament to God's merciful work. The genesis of FEBC starts with John Brager and Robert Bauman attending Southern California Bible College. The two have a vision for missionary radio, and then they share that idea with Reverend William Roberts, who is a pastor of the church that Bauman's parents attended. Luckily, Pastor Robert and his church are the first to assist FEBC through prayer and funding. Within 3 months, they raised about $10,000, even though the proposed amount needed was $100,000. They continued to press on while recognizing the problems of setting up a radio station on a foreign land. With the money they raised, they decided on a journey into the Orient to lay the foundation for the establishment of a radio transmitter which would carry the message of Christ's power to save to the millions of people in those far eastern lands who have never known the Savior. Brager is the first one to leave since Bauman was still attending a program and Robert was still pastoring a church. As Brager arrived to the other side of the Pacific, he held numerous meetings with mission leaders in Shanghai to discuss the possibility of establishing a broadcasting station on China soil. There are many complications in doing so, and after spending 6 months negotiating with Chinese officials, he embarks to Manila to investigate the same possibilities in the Philippine Islands. When he arrives, Brager then calls the radio department office to find out how to begin the process to build a radio transmitter. He gets the forms and leaves a few questions blank because 1, he didn't know how the station was going to be financed. 2nd, he didn't know the proposed power in terms of watts. And 3rd, he didn't know where the transmitters were going to be located. Somehow, when Brager got the papers back, someone had penciled 10,000 watts, and without an answer to the other 2 questions, he's given the go-ahead signal to start building the transmitter. The land in Manila was very expensive at the time, but an honest businessman heard about their need and showed them a piece of property that he owned, selling at $50,000. After many twists and turns, they are able to secure this money, and in 1946 is when everything began for FEBC in the Philippines. At the time, Christians were being persecuted. Churches that had been built with American money were being confiscated, and it seemed as if the days of foreign missionary working on China soil were numbered. In the Philippines, things were a little different. Through negotiations with the Priority Board, FEBC was placed in the same category as important buildings in Manila. There was a caveat to this because the Philippine government gave them a deadline. They demanded that FEBC go on air by April 14, 1948. So they had to quickly change their plans. They needed to send the transmitter from the United States overseas as soon as possible. So on February 23, 1948, half of the 18 FEBC staff, including Bowman and Pastor Robert, plus 52 cubic tons of equipment, sailed out of San Francisco Harbor on SS Indian Bear, and the other half sailed later on the SS China Bear. As the race to go on air continued, 90-foot telephone poles were secured from the US Navy, who were willing to give them away. They were also given 7 extra weeks since they were so behind on schedule, and then 3 days before they were to have all equipment ready and on the air, they expected to have the transmitter completely wired and ready to test. But something went wrong with one of the circuits and it had to be repaired. Finally, the first of the Far East Broadcasting Company's transmitters hummed its power as it went on the air at 6 p.m. on June 4, 1948. Ironically, after just 2 hours of broadcasting, the 1,000-watt transmitter kicked off automatically from an overloaded circuit and they went off the air. The thing is it had never been checked before and it would have to go through further tests amid a limited broadcasting schedule for the next few weeks. Overall, the mission was accomplished. Bragger, Bauman, and Roberts truly defied all odds. They knew that millions of people all over the world depended on shortwave radios for news and entertainment, that radio receivers outnumbered copies of newspapers printed each day. So they met the challenge with all they had and God honored their dedicated faith. In less than 2 decades, FEBC became one of the world's greatest missionary arms, spreading the gospel message to all of the Far East and Russia, and even as far as north as Scandinavia. This goes to show us that when the gospel light touches the heart, it simply bursts into flame. To continue sharing the story of FEBC, I'm going to be sharing a series of photographs in the next few slides. Starting with this one, this is the aerial view of what became Christian Radio City in Manila. And then this is the studio administration building and the 308-foot antenna tower. These are the founders. From left to right, we have Robert Bauman, John Bragger, and Pastor William Roberts. Here you can see what the overseas studios and controls looks like. This is what the program department looks like, and it's probably one of my favorite pictures because it almost looks like a real library, but it's actually a tape library. In order to reach their audience members, the biggest goal of FEBC was to locate modern, portable missionary radios in each of the provinces and on every inhabited island of the Philippines, as well as in 5 additional countries in Asia. FEBC continues to reach all corners of the world, and in this particular photograph, Indian Christians are recording the gospel programs in a New Delhi studio. The machines in this picture are actually 50,000-watt overseas transmitter located in the Philippines in what they call the controls department. On the left, you can see the chief engineer, Francisco Matias. This is a picture of a group of villagers that gather around to listen to the gospel in headhunter country. The gentleman in the middle is Isabella Montejo, and he is the department director who faces what they call a portable transmitter among tribesmen in Nueva Vizcaya, Philippines. This is Balak Luna, the mayor of 5,000 friendly but extremely shy migrant tribesmen in the mountains on the island of Mindoro. Balak is one of those who have received Christ as Savior, and the transmitter in the back is one of the several that ministers to his people. And then this last photo has been called or quoted, "Jesus loves me, this I know," and it depicts little Filipinos that listen to a portable transmitter radio. Today, FEBC's programs are now worldwide as well as by satellite, internet. They are also broadcast by shortwave through transmitter sites in the Philippines, sharing Christ with hard-to-reach minority ethnic groups. They are now broadcasting 1,571 hours each day in 141 languages worldwide. Last year alone, they received 148 million listener responses, many attesting to the transformed lives. This is why FEBC was launched, and this is why they continue to share Jesus Christ with the world until all have heard. And that is a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.